When Grandma Rose died at 83, her family rushed to claim her fortune. They'd been waiting for this moment for years. But when they opened her safe, expecting bank statements, property deeds, stock certificates, all they found was an empty metal box and a single letter, addressed to no one. Inside that letter was the truth that destroyed the entire family and revealed where she hid $10 million. But here's the part her family never expected. She didn't hide the money to protect it. She hid it to test them. And what happened next? It became the most satisfying act of justice you'll ever hear. Rose Whitmore was not who you'd expect to be sitting on a fortune. Born in 1940, she grew up in a two-bedroom house with 4 siblings in rural Ohio. Her father worked at a steel mill. Her mother took in laundry. Rose learned early that every penny mattered. She wore hand-me-downs. She walked 3 miles to school. She never complained. But she was sharp. Sharper than anyone realized. While other kids played after school, Rose read the financial section of the newspaper her father brought home. She learned about compound interest at 13, about the stock market at 15. And by 17, she was already saving a portion of every dollar she earned babysitting and cleaning houses. Rose married young, to a kind man named Thomas who worked construction. They lived modestly, raised 3 children, never took vacations. But Rose? She was quietly building something. She invested in dividend stocks when no one was paying attention, bought rental properties in neighborhoods people overlooked, lived below her means while her wealth grew silently in the background. Her husband passed away when she was 62, and by the time Rose turned 70, she was worth just over $10 million. But you'd never know it by looking at her. She still clipped coupons, still drove a 15-year-old sedan, still wore the same floral dresses she'd owned for decades. Everyone thought she was just a fragile old woman living on Social Security. No one realized she was building something bigger than all of them. And no one knew that she was watching. Always watching. Rose had 3 children. Michael, her oldest, became a real estate broker. Successful on paper, but always spending more than he made. Susan, the middle child, married a lawyer and lived in the suburbs. She was busy. Always busy. And David, the youngest, worked in sales but never quite found his footing. Between them, Rose had 7 grandchildren. And for a while things seemed fine. But fine doesn't last forever. It started small. Phone calls that went unreturned. Birthday cards Rose sent that were never acknowledged. Promises to visit that were broken at the last minute. Michael would call only when he needed something. A loan for a down payment. Help with his mortgage. Just until the commission checks come in, Mom. Susan visited twice a year, on Mother's Day and Christmas. Each visit lasted less than 2 hours. David barely called at all. The grandchildren? They came around when they wanted money for college, for cars, for rent. But never just to see her. Rose noticed everything. She noticed when her calls were sent to voicemail. She noticed when family dinners were scheduled without her. She noticed the impatience in their voices when she talked too long. And then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening in November. Rose had invited Michael and Susan over for dinner. She'd cooked for hours. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, apple pie from scratch. The meal ended quickly. Everyone was busy. Rose excused herself to the bathroom. But as she walked down the hallway, she heard them. "How much longer do you think she has?" Michael's voice. "I don't know. But we need to talk about the house. This property alone is worth at least $600,000. Susan's voice. "What about her accounts? She's got to have something saved up." "I'm not sure, but once she's gone, we need to move fast. Probate can take forever." "Do you think she has a will?" "God, I hope so. Otherwise, this is going to be a nightmare." Rose stood frozen in the hallway, her hand on the wall to steady herself. Her own children. Talking about her like she was already dead. Like she was an obstacle between them and money. She didn't say anything when she returned to the table. Just smiled. Served pie. Hugged them goodbye. But that night, Rose made a decision. One that would take her 3 years to complete. And one that would expose every single one of them. Rose didn't act out of anger. She acted out of clarity. The next morning, she called a lawyer. Not the family lawyer. Not anyone her children knew. A private attorney 2 towns over. His name was Harold Finch. Late 60s. Discreet. Professional. Rose walked into his office with a notebook and a clear mind. "I need to move my assets," she said. "And I need to make sure my family can't touch them until I'm ready." Harold listened. And over the next 6 months, they worked together to dismantle the financial trail her children expected to follow. First, Rose liquidated her rental properties. She sold them quietly, one by one, through different agents. The money went into accounts her children didn't know existed. Then she moved her investment portfolio. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, everything was transferred to a private trust managed by an independent firm in Delaware. The trust was ironclad. No one in her family was listed as a beneficiary. Not yet. Rose also created a decoy will. A simple document that left the house to be split 3 ways and mentioned a modest savings account of around $40,000. Enough to seem real. Not enough to raise suspicion. She kept that document in an obvious place, in a drawer in her kitchen. And she never mentioned the real will, the one locked in Harold Finch's office safe. But Rose didn't stop there.
She started documenting
Every missed birthday, every canceled visit, every time one of her children asked for money but didn't ask how she was doing. She kept a journal. Detailed, dated, specific. Not out of bitterness, but because she wanted the truth to be undeniable. By the time Rose turned 80, her plan was nearly complete. Her assets were hidden. Her true will was written. And her family had no idea. But there was one final piece she needed. Someone she could trust. Someone who actually cared. And that's when she met Emma. Emma Torres was 26 years old when she moved in next door. She was a nursing student, working part-time at a local senior center to pay for school. She was quiet.
kind.
The type of person who noticed when someone needed help. One afternoon, Emma saw Rose struggling to carry groceries from her car. "Let me help you with that." It was such a small gesture, but it meant everything. They started talking. Emma would check in on Rose a few times a week, bring her soup when she was sick, sit with her and listen to stories about Thomas, about Rose's childhood, about the life she'd built. For the first time in years, Rose felt seen. Not as a bank account, not as an inheritance, just as a person. And slowly, carefully, Rose began to trust her. One evening, about 6 months after they met, Rose invited Emma inside for tea. "I need to tell you something," Rose said. Emma sat down, concerned. "I'm not who my family thinks I am. I have resources, more than they know, and I've made a plan." Emma listened. Rose explained everything. The money, the hidden accounts, the real will. And then she asked, "When I'm gone, I need you to make sure something gets delivered. Can you do that for me?" Emma hesitated. "Are you sure you want me involved in this?" Rose smiled. "You're the only one I trust." Over the next 2 years, Emma became Rose's quiet partner. She helped Rose set up digital records, organized documents, even drove her to bank appointments when Rose didn't want to go alone. And in return, Rose treated her like family. Real family. The kind that shows up. A few months before Rose passed, she handed Emma a sealed envelope.
Thick.
Official-looking. "When I'm gone, don't open this until they arrive. My children. Let them open the safe first. Then give them this." Emma held the envelope carefully. "What's inside?" Rose's eyes softened. "The truth." She paused. "Let them see who they truly are." As Rose entered her 80s, her health began to decline. Nothing dramatic, just the natural slowing down of age. But her family saw an opportunity. Michael started showing up more often. Not to visit, to assess. "Mom, have you thought about selling the house? It's too big for you. You could move into a nice assisted living place." Translation: Let's liquidate the asset. Susan began asking pointed questions. "Mom, who manages your finances? Do you have everything in order? We just want to make sure you're protected." Translation: We want access. "David, who'd been absent for years, suddenly reappeared. "Hey, Mom. I'm back in town. Thought I'd stay with you for a while. Help out." Translation: I need a place to live, and I'm hoping you'll pay my bills. Rose played along. She smiled, nodded. Let them think she was losing her sharpness. But inside, she was taking notes. Michael tried to convince her to add him to her bank accounts just in case. Susan brought papers for Rose to sign, power of attorney documents that would give her control over Rose's medical and financial decisions. David started going through her mail when she wasn't looking. It was all so predictable. And Rose saw it all. One afternoon, Susan sat down with Rose at the kitchen table. "Mom, I think it's time we talked about your will." Rose looked up from her tea. "Oh, it's already done, sweetheart. Don't you worry." Susan's face brightened. "That's great. Can I see it? Just so we know everything's in order." Rose pointed to the drawer. "It's right there, if you want to look." Susan pulled out the decoy will, skimmed it quickly, smiled. "This looks good, Mom." She had no idea. None of them did. And as Rose grew weaker, their impatience grew stronger. They became colder. Visits felt like inspections. Conversations felt like interrogations. But Rose never broke. She simply watched and waited. "Before we continue, I want to hear from you. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. What would you do if you were in Rose's position? Let's keep going." Rose passed away on a quiet Sunday morning in March. Emma was with her. She'd been staying over more frequently, helping Rose with daily tasks, keeping her company. That morning, Rose woke up slower than usual. Her breathing was shallow. Emma called hospice. They came quickly, and by late morning, Rose was surrounded by calm, by comfort. She wasn't in pain. She was at peace. Before she closed her eyes for the last time, she reached for Emma's hand. "The envelope," she whispered. Emma nodded. "I know. I'll do exactly what you asked." Rose smiled. "Thank you for seeing me." And then she was gone. Emma sat with her for a long time, not because she had to, but because Rose deserved that. To not be alone. To be honored. After the hospice nurse left, Emma called Rose's children. Michael answered first. "She's gone." There was a pause. Then, "We'll be there tomorrow." Not, "I'm so sorry." Not, "How are you?" Just logistics. Susan and David responded the same way. Cold. Efficient. Emma felt sick. But she remembered what Rose had asked her to do. And she would honor it. They arrived 2 days later. All 3 of them, plus 4 of the grandchildren, dressed in black, but their eyes were bright, eager. Michael walked through the house like he was already measuring it for resale. Susan started opening drawers, looking through papers. David went straight to Rose's bedroom. Emma watched from the kitchen. "Excuse me," she said quietly. Rose left instructions. She wanted you to open the safe together. They turned. Michael frowned. "And who are you?" "I'm Emma. I was Rose's neighbor. She asked me to make sure something was delivered after you arrived." Susan's eyes narrowed. "What kind of instructions?" Emma led them to Rose's bedroom. In the closet, behind a stack of old blankets, was a small safe. Rose had told Michael the combination years ago. He'd forgotten, of course. But it was written in her decoy will. Michael knelt down, spun the dial. The safe clicked open. He pulled the door wide. And inside? Nothing. No bank statements. No jewelry. No deeds. Just an envelope. Thick. Cream-colored. Sealed with wax. On the front, in Rose's handwriting. "To my children." Susan grabbed it. Tore it open. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. 3 pages. She read it aloud. Slowly at first. Then faster, as the words sank in. "To Michael, Susan, and David. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And I imagine you're standing in my bedroom right now looking for what you came here for. Money. Let me save you the trouble. You won't find it. Not in this house. Not in any account you know about. Because 3 years ago, I moved everything. Every dollar. Every asset. Every investment. I did it the night I heard you talking about me like I was already dead. Michael, you asked how much longer I had. Susan, you were already planning to sell my home. David, you didn't even bother to show up that night, but you called the next day asking for rent money. I want you to know that I heard you. I heard all of it. And in that moment, I realized something.
You didn't love me.
You loved what I could give you. So I made a choice. I documented everything. Every missed birthday. Every time you asked for money, but not how I was doing. Every time you were too busy to visit. I have it all written down. And I'm not angry. I'm heartbroken. But I'm also free. Because I found someone who actually cared. Someone who saw me as a person, not an inheritance. Her name is Emma. And she will receive what you were waiting for.
Not all of it. She wouldn't want that.
But enough to finish nursing school, buy a home, and start her life without debt. The rest? It's going where it was always meant to go. To scholarships for students who can't afford college. To community programs that feed the elderly. To people who need help, not people who feel entitled to it. If you wanted my money, you should have wanted me first.
Goodbye.
Rose. The room was silent. Susan's hands were shaking. Michael's face was red. David looked like he'd been slapped. This is bullshit, Michael said. She can't do this. Susan turned to Emma. Where's the real will? Emma's voice was calm. That is the real will. It's with her attorney. And it's legal. Who's the attorney? His name is Harold Finch. He has all the documentation. And it's already been filed with probate court. Michael stepped closer. You manipulated her. You took advantage of an old woman. Emma didn't flinch. I was her friend. The only one she had. We're contesting this, Susan said. We'll fight it. Emma nodded. You can try. But Rose kept records. Every time you ignored her. Every time you asked for money. Every conversation. Every broken promise.
She paused.
She documented everything. David sank into a chair. How much? He asked quietly. How much what? How much did she have? Emma looked at him. $10 million. The room went cold. And where is it now? Susan whispered. Exactly where Rose wanted it to be. Over the next few weeks, the truth unfolded. Harold Finch released the full details of Rose's estate plan. The house was left to be sold, with proceeds going to a scholarship fund Rose had established for first-generation college students. Her investment portfolio, worth over $8 million, was placed in an irrevocable charitable trust. The trust funded programs Rose had chosen carefully. Meals on Wheels for isolated seniors. Nursing scholarships for students like Emma. Community centers in underserved areas. Financial literacy programs for young people. Her personal savings, about $400,000, went to Emma. With clear instructions. Use this to build the life you deserve. And when you're old, I hope someone shows you the kindness you showed me. Michael, Susan, and David received exactly what they'd given Rose in her final years. Nothing. They tried to fight it. Hired lawyers. Argued that Rose wasn't of sound mind when she changed her will. But Harold Finch had anticipated this. He had medical records showing Rose was sharp until her final days. He had notarized documents signed by multiple witnesses. He had Rose's journal, 3 years of detailed, dated entries documenting her children's neglect and manipulation. The case was dismissed within 6 weeks. The judge's words were blunt. Mrs. Whitmore had every right to distribute her estate as she saw fit. The evidence shows she was fully competent, deeply intentional, and sadly justified in her decisions. Case closed. Michael stopped speaking to Susan and David, blaming them for pushing Mom too hard. Susan became obsessed with the idea that there was hidden money somewhere, convinced Rose couldn't have given it all away. David disappeared, moved out of state. No one heard from him again. The family that had once gathered around Rose's table, pretending, performing, waiting, was shattered. Not by Rose's death, but by the truth she left behind. 6 months later, the local newspaper ran a story. Local woman's legacy transforms community after death. It detailed Rose's life, her quiet brilliance, her generosity, her final act of justice. The article went viral. People across the country shared it. Some were inspired. Others were heartbroken. But everyone agreed on one thing. Rose Whitmore was a hero. The scholarship fund she created awarded its first grants that fall. 20 students, all from low-income families, received full rides to college. One of them wrote a letter to Emma. "I don't know who Rose Whitmore was, but because of her, I get to be the first person in my family to go to college. Thank you for helping her do this." Emma kept that letter. She framed it. And every time she doubted herself, every time nursing school felt overwhelming, she read it. The community center Rose funded opened the following spring. It offered free meals, literacy classes, job training, and healthcare screenings. On opening day, they hung a plaque. The Rose Whitmore Community Center, built on love, not legacy. Emma graduated nursing school debt-free. She bought a small house 3 blocks from where Rose used to live. And every year, on the anniversary of Rose's death, she visited her grave, brought flowers,
Sat for a while.
and said thank you for seeing her, for trusting her, for showing her what real family looks like. Grandma Rose didn't hide $10 million out of spite. She hid it to reveal the truth. That love is priceless. That greed always exposes itself. And that the people who deserve your wealth are rarely the ones demanding it. Rose knew her children would come looking for money. And she let them. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is a mirror. And the family? They never found a single dollar. Because they were never meant to. If this story moved you, leave a comment below. Have you ever witnessed a family torn apart by inheritance? Do you think Rose did the right thing? Let's talk about it. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like this, stories about justice, integrity, and what really matters, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because the truth is, the best revenge isn't anger. It's living by your values. And leaving a legacy that actually means something. Thanks for watching. And remember, the people worth leaving something to are the ones who'd love you even if you had nothing at all. See you in the next one.